Let's make a new project. I'm going to make a blank project, select blueprint, as I don't want any C++ yet, and name it tutorial project. I'm going to make a new map just because I don't like this one. By going to File, New Level, create a basic level. Let's make it our default map by going to Project Setting, Maps and Mode. Well, let's save the map first. I'm going to make a folder for it and move it inside. Now we can set it as our startup map. Look for list of map to include and add it here, so that when we build our server and client, it will be included. Now I'm going to set my ID. Here I'm using Rider, which I do highly recommend, but you can use whatever you prefer. Editor preference, source code, I'm going to set it to Rider EU project. Let's make our first C++ class now. Tool, new C++ class, and make a character class. Class type is public to organize the code a little bit. I'm going to name it BaseCharacter and place it in a folder named Character. This class will contain the shared functionality of our player and enemy characters. Let's go to Tool and open Rider. You should have a public folder with the header files and a private folder with all the C++ files. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, as we don't need these functions and comments for now. Just a preference of mine, you don't have to remove the comment and empty spaces if you want. I'm going to close the Unreal Editor so I can compile the code from Rider. Let's make some child classes from the base character. Right-click on the character folder and select Add Unreal Class. Select all classes and find a base character class. I'm going to name it PlayerController and click OK. Do the same thing again, this time for the enemy character. Again, I'm just gonna clean up the classes a little bit. Before compiling, let's unload the engine files so that it doesn't slow down the project. Right-click on engine and unload project. Now let's compile. Now that we have a C++ version of our character, we can make a blueprint from it, and I'm going to make some folders to keep it organized. In the PlayerCharacter folder, right-click and select Blueprint class. Expand all classes and find the PlayerCharacter C++ class that we just made. Let's name it BP PlayerCharacter and open it. I don't like how it opens my blueprint in a new window instead of a new tab, so let's fix that. Let's go to Editor Preference and look for Asset Editor, then select Main Window. Now it opens as a new tab. We have our player character, but we don't have a mesh for it. You can use your own custom character here if you have one. For now, I'm just going to use the Unreal Mannequin just for testing. Click Add, then Add Feature or Content, select Third Person, Blueprint, and Add. The mannequins came with a few extra files that I don't need, so I'm just going to delete them. The mannequins that we just imported are in characters. I'm going to use the Unreal Engine 4 mannequin just because I prefer the way it looks, but feel free to use any mannequin that you want. Let's organize things a little bit by making an asset folder to keep everything, and move everything to the asset folder and delete the characters folder. I'm also deleting the Unreal Engine 5 mannequin as I won't be using it. Let's open the player's character blueprint and set the mesh. I'm going to move it down by 90 units and rotate it by 90 degrees. We need to make sure that we are using this character now. We don't have a custom game mode yet, so let's make one. Back to Rider, I'm going to Add a new class, look for GameMode base, name it TP GameMode base, TP stands for tutorial project, and place it in a GameModes folder, and then compile. It seems like there's some weird issues happening. Let's figure this out. I'm missing an include here. Let's fix that and compile. Let's make a folder to keep the blueprint version of the GameMode base. Now open it and set our player character as the default pawn class. Make sure it's the blueprint version. Let's go to Edit, Project Setting, Maps and Mode, and set the default game mode to the BP GameMode base. Now if you press play, we'll see, oh, well, we don't see our character. Well, that's because we didn't set up a camera yet. But we did spawn in our player character. To see it, just press Shift and F1 to get your mouse cursor, then click on the detach button. As you can see, we do have a character spawned in. Let's take care of the camera. In the player character's header file, add a private section. Let's make a U property visible anywhere, category camera. First, we need a spring arm to hold the camera at a distance of our character. Let's forward declare it so that we don't have to include the header files for the spring arm component in the header files here. Next, the camera component, we'll do the same thing. Now let's create them in the C++ file. Include the header for the spring arm component. Reattach it to the character and set the length to 600. You can use whatever value you want. And set B use spawn control rotation to true. Let's take care of the camera, attach it to the spring arm, and set B use spawn control rotation to false, and then compile. If we press play now, we can see our character, but we can't move our character or the camera. So next, let's take care of that. In public, I'm going to add a new class, PlayerController, which will contain our movement logic. Let's make a public section and make a constructor for the class. Next, we'll go to the build.cs file of our project and add a new dependency, enhanced input. This is what Unreal uses to capture input for the player. It's enhanced with a D. Let's make a protected section and override the begin play function of the controller class, and also override the setup input component function. Now we need a input mapping context, which will be the link between our input action and our player character to execute them. Let's forward declare it. I forgot the in override here. Let's make an input action. I'm going to call it move action. It will be responsible for our character movements. And another one that we're gonna call look action, to be used to move our camera. Now we can forward declare input action and create the definition for these functions. In begin play, let's make sure we have a valid input context to use. Let's include some headers that we are going to need. The subsystem and the input component. we need to get access to the subsystem of the player controller to set our input context on it. We need to make sure that our subsystem is valid before we set the input context, so I'm just going to move this into an if statement. Let's cast the input component on the player controller to an enhance input component. Now we can bind the input actions that we made so that when we press a button, it executes a function on our player character. Here we need to provide which function we want to call when the move action key is pressed. Let's make a function to call. Back to the header file. In the private section, let's make a move function that takes in an input action value. Let's make one after that for look action also. And don't forget to declare input action value. In the move function, First, we need to convert the value we are getting from input action value to a vector 2D. Next, we get the yaw rotation from the controller. This gives us the direction which the controller is facing. Now we get the forward direction by using the F rotation matrix function, and then we'll do the same to get the right direction also. Let's make sure we have a valid pawn to move, and then add our movement input to move it around. Next, let's take care of the look function. Same thing here, as we need to convert the value into a vector 2D. Here we go, now we can call these functions from our binding. Now I'm gonna make a controller folder to keep the blueprint version of the player controller. This is where we set our input context and input action. Let's create them. Let's make sure our game mode is using the BPTP player controller. If you don't see this setting window, just go to Window and add it. Make a new folder for the input, action, and context. Right-click and select Input, Input Action. AI for input action and name it Move. I'm just going to make a copy and name it Look. Let's start with Look. Change the value type to axis 2D. Then we add a modifier, as I want to reverse the look up and down so that when my mouse moves up, the camera pans down. Next is Move. Set the value type to axis 2D. Now let's make an input mapping context. Add our look and move to the mapping. For the look key, select mouse XY 2D axis. For the move, we are going to add 4 bindings. Click on the keyboard icon and press the button you want to set it as. For the W key, add a modifier and select swivel input to get the forward direction. For the A key, we are going to negate it to get the left instead of the right direction. For the S key, we need 2 modifiers. One to get the forward direction, and one to reverse it to get the backward direction. There's no changes for the D key. Make sure you set the input context and input actions in our PlayerController. Now if we press play, we can move the character and the camera around. But of course we don't have any animations yet, so let's take care of that next.